That's a perfect song for this.
All right, it is 7:20 here, Big 550 KTRS. Due to the cold weather, our next guest is a moment or two late.
Hopefully they didn't have to run a red light.
Hopefully they didn't have to run a red light to get in. So in terms of live radio and live TV, he's currently, here's the play-by-play. He's currently taking his jacket off.
Yeah.
Sir, if you can sit right here in this nice chair right here, and if you can talk straight into the microphone.
I'll get it all situated for you.
Michael Carter, you are an attorney for Carter Law Offices. Welcome to the Big 550 KTRS here in St. Louis.
Thanks for having me.
Tell us about this. It's a settlement, right?
Right. Yeah. About I guess roughly 900,000 people in the class.
Yeah.
Anybody who's paid in.
So take us from the beginning. What is the class action lawsuit? What was it? Well, what is it?
It's against any cities that used ATS, American Traffic Solutions,
right,
to manage the red light camera programs. And so if you got a ticket, you got a notice in the mail, let's say $100, $140, $80, whatever it was. If you then paid it, which many people thought you shouldn't pay them potentially.
Right.
The class action lawsuit itself then is about the 3 or 4 reasons that those attorneys believe that you did not need to pay it.
Right.
Evidently, ATS, through the appellate process, 4 or 5 appellate decisions from the Eastern and Western courts, said that indeed they were potentially right anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And so now ATS has agreed to settle for 20% on every fine that someone did pay. They will reimburse that person in the class if they make the proper either web entry, phone call, or mail-in claim.
And what was the reason for the what was the reason that ATS agreed that said it was wrong?
They don't, and specifically do say in the settlement agreement that they don't admit any wrongdoing.
Okay.
But that the writing is kind of on the wall. They had 5 decisions, Eastern District, Western District, in lockstep on some issues. The main issue they were all in lockstep on is that in Missouri, a moving violation should be assessed points.
Right.
And they weren't doing that. You're just paying a fine, and it's a nuisance value.
Right. And, okay, this is kind of interesting because, and this is the crux of the whole thing. This is where it all turns. So you go through a red light, the camera takes a picture, you get a ticket. Because, but it's a moving violation because you went through the red light, but they deem it to be a non-moving violation.
By ordinance, it would be kind of what I would call a legal fiction. They would say in the ordinance specifically, this is not considered a moving violation. It would be a non-reportable offense to the DOR, which is the licensing authority,
right,
which would then, upon 6, 8, 12 points, either suspend or revoke your license.
Right.
But because they don't send it to the DOR, because they, through legal fiction, determine that it's not a moving violation,
right,
they just collect the money.
Right.
And then people don't want to go to court. In fact, that's the whole beauty of the process from a business standpoint.
Right, just give me your money.
Exactly.
Right. So they find you in violation of going through a red light, and they basically give you parking tickets.
There's an analogy there, yes, but a parking ticket, and I know you don't mean this, but it's a stationary occurrence. There's not a lot of safety involved, whereas moving through an intersection, presumably the reason the red lights are there, in fact, that's what they trumpet the most, is it does diminish the amount of red light running and things, and if that's true, then it's supposed to be a safety issue, as parking is not. That's a convenience issue.
Right. Okay, go ahead.
The argument being, you cannot prove that that is the actual driver of that red light.
That's one of the other problems that 2 of the courts out of the 5, I think, found, was that this rebuttable presumption that the driver is the owner has potentially some unconstitutional issues at the state level, that you're potentially putting someone in jail, especially if you issue a failure to appear charge, yet you're presuming, which is the opposite of what we would consider proper due process, that this owner is the person driving it, and that just, you don't usually have to, the burden is normally on the state.
The person who wrote that clearly doesn't have John Carney as a friend, and he borrows my truck all the time, so that would have thrown me in jail all day long. All right.
Right.
Now, so because they've agreed to pay for these things, going forward, does that mean we don't have to pay when we get a red light ticket from American Traffic Solutions?
Well, right now I don't think American Traffic Solutions is issuing any tickets in the entire state. And this does not include, for instance, Redflex, which is in Edmondson and Hannibal. They still issue some tickets, and they try to, my understanding is, submit those to the DOR, but the DOR is not accepting, based on some of these decisions that we just referenced, they're not accepting those points from Edmonton specifically. And Hannibal, I'm not 100% certain, but anybody who has a ticket that they got after, let's say, November 2014, the settlement specifically says, if it is approved by the judge, that they have to take that up then with that jurisdiction and see what it is that court's going to do.
I got a red light camera ticket not too long ago, maybe 2 weeks ago.
Right.
I think I was in the city somewhere.
In the city of St. Louis, they have created an escrow that supposedly, in the event that they win or lose their case at the Missouri Supreme Court level, which is outside of the case that we're talking about right now, they would then refund directly from that escrow to everybody who they shouldn't have collected it from. Now, I imagine, the percentage of people who actually get that back will not be 100%. If they do win at the Supreme Court level based on their arguments, then they'll keep that escrow.
And how far back do these tickets go? Can it be like 2004?
The ATS program.
How do you prove that you paid it?
I think
it's that long ago.
A couple of ways. The Genesis, I think, is around 2005, and they have a database, presumably, of everybody who's ever interacted with ATS.
Right.
That way, when you make your claim on the internet or through the phone or through mail, they look you up and verify it, that you're that person, and then you would get the money if they could see that you paid it. In the event that they don't have any indication that you did pay a fine, you would have to prove it. And typically what most attorneys should have told their clients, which I've heard on the radio, different scenarios, but what I always say is you should write in the memo, paid under protest. You should attach a letter paid under protest. That way, in the event that you ever do fight it, you haven't voluntarily given them the money. You've made some indication that I don't agree with what has happened, and I want this back in the event that something changes legally.
Mike Carter, attorney for Carter Law Office, is talking about this settlement. Okay, has there ever? And we'll get to how you can apply for your settlement here in a second. But have you ever heard of anybody points on their license, booting their car, not being able to register for another car, losing their life? Have you heard of any retaliation for someone who did not pay a red light camera ticket?
Yes. A lot of the courts, that was the teeth to the ordinance, was we didn't necessarily consider it a criminal offense as a red light violation in and of itself, but in the event you didn't respect the court and show up, we would issue then an FTA, a failure to appear. Well, that by ordinance, almost always, by the nature of failure to appear, means that you're going to have a warrant for your arrest for not respecting the court, and then we arrest you on that charge.
Right.
And under one of the cases, I think it's Brunner or Brunel, they specifically said, well, in the event that you're going to eventually potentially jail these people, then that really is a criminal offense. But yes, the short answer is there are a couple courts that would indeed do that.
No, I think I've had 7 red light camera tickets over the last number of years, mostly right on reds, failure to come to a complete stop or whatever.
Right.
And they've gone right in the circular file every time. So there are people who pay, and there are people who don't pay. Now, nothing has ever happened to me. I've said it on the radio. I haven't been shy. So it's a haves and the have-nots, right? I mean, mostly it's people have paid, and great, we've got your money. But if I don't pay a parking ticket, there are repercussions. There's been no repercussion for me for not paying my red light camera tickets.
And if I was you, I'd be, just a little bit worried. I don't know where you got each and every one of those tickets, but County Councilman Joe Brazel in St. Charles, he got picked up.
Yeah.
He didn't pay his in St. Peter's. I mean, there's a specific example. And he then went on to kind of champion the banning of red light cameras throughout the county. I would, if I was you, look up each of those and find out where they are. And just, a lot of judges, regardless of what you think or I think about the ordinance, they respect their court a great deal. And if you don't, and you just, ignore their summons or notifications, that can be a separate issue from the red light camera ordinance itself.
Yeah. Because it's multiple, or because he's had more than one?
Well, it depends. He could have had one in Edmonton, one in Woodson Terrace, one in the city, and each of those courts and judges, they handle things very differently. In Florissant, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but Ron Brockmeyer, the prosecutor there, he was known to kind of not love red light cameras, but he was charged with enforcing them. So he may be somebody who didn't haul you into jail because of that.
All right. So if you paid your ticket and you want some type of reimbursement, what are you supposed to do?
There's a couple ways. One, you can mail back your postcard that they send you in the mail, or respond to it by phone. There's an 800 number.
So if you get a postcard saying you might have paid 8 AST or American Traffic Solutions
ATS.
So please return this postcard.
Right, or it may have an address to write back and include the postcard back to them. Yes. Right. Additionally, you can call an 800 number, which is actually 866 number. Let me see if I've got it on here. The 866 number. And you can go to the website, which is RLC Enforcement. No, it's MORLCE. Let me get this straight. I'm very sorry. www.morlcenforcement.com. So I guess that's Missouri Red Light Camera in the form of an acronym. MORLC, and then the word enforcement. Again, www.morlcenforcement.com. That's probably, in 2015, your easiest way to go about doing it.
And you're going to get 20% back?
Pretty much $20 on 100.
$20 on. How much do the lawyers get in all this?
Very little compared to what normal class actions are. They can be approved from anywhere from 30 to 53% according to the state laws.
Right.
But they're actually got the people back about 20% of every fine that they paid, which is again not normal. Usually it's pennies on the dollar.
Right.
But they're agreeing, I think, roughly to $1.5 million to $2.5 million in attorney's fee, which is, under 10%.
And how many people do you think are eligible for a refund?
Well, I think there's 900,000 people in the class.
Right.
I would bet they're planning on 30%.
Right.
Actually taking action and getting their money, and you have to do that by roughly February 28th this year.
Is this the end? Is this the end of red light cameras?
The Missouri Supreme Court took up that case in St. Louis City.
Right.
It's not a very strong case factually for the people who hate red light cameras. Actually, there wasn't a lot of testimony, and the testimony that was there was favorable from Chief Dotson from St. Louis City, who said that they are a safety preventative thing and that kind of thing. And so when that comes out in the next 2 or 3 months, we'll have a lot to talk about.
Right. But it seems to me like if this class action lawsuit says this is wrong, and then going forward they're still going to do the same things they were doing, it seems very confusing.
Well, if this class action is for those people that are represented by these set of facts,
right?
And so, based on that lawsuit at hand,
right,
they're making educated decisions on both sides to settle that class that goes back now 7-10 years.
However, nothing's changing. You're still giving tickets through red light cameras. If there's a moving violation, yet it's a non-moving violation. All of those things are the same.
That's.
Right.
With all due respect, that's not exactly accurate. The Kansas City doesn't issue any tickets. Woodson Terrace, every city in the action does not do any tickets anymore.
But the American Traffic Solutions, they're going forward. Are they not going to continue giving red light camera tickets the same exact way?
One, in St. Louis City, they're putting them in escrow.
Right.
It's the only place I know of.
Right.
And in the event that Missouri Supreme Court decision comes out in their favor, they may pop back up in every one of those cities. Now, I was in Capitol Hill yesterday in Jeff City, met with about 9 or 10 senators and probably 30 House of Representatives. It was the inauguration day.
Sure, yeah.
And the tenor there, since St. Charles County voted these down as an outright ban, 73%, is that these cameras are going nowhere. And to the extent that the Supreme Court validates them in any way, I think the legislative body is going to take action and ban them statewide anyway.
Well, it's great to see that the Jefferson City folks are really jumping on the bandwagon.
I think St. Charles really did it.
Well, I mean, who's been a fan of these red light cameras? It's about time that elected officials actually respond to the people who put them there.
Well, it wouldn't make sense to continue enforcing them if they're settling, with so many people.
Fact is, and that's distinct, the lawsuit is about a body of people who, over the past 7 or 10 years, did something during allegedly illegal time. But
Mike Carter, attorney for Carter Law Offices, thanks for the explanation.
Thanks for having me.
You got it. 7:35 here, Big 550 KTRS.
Hi, I'm Dr. Dan Gagliardi.
And I'm Dr. Nick Barnes.
Tune in to the